Hello there, welcome to this edition of Global Business Africa. In the next 30 minutes, we'll make a speed run through all the key business news stories you need to know about from across Africa, from Cairo, Joburg, Lagos and Nairobi. We've got you covered. Here's what's coming up. South Africa has named a new Reserve Bank governor to succeed Jill Marcus. Trade between China and Nigeria has gone up by 40%. We'll tell you where the rise came from. And a tech hub just for women. We'll be in Senegal with the details. Now, South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has picked Lesetja Kganyago as the new Reserve Bank governor to replace Jill Marcus when a contract expires on the 8th of November. He's currently the deputy governor in charge of banking supervision within the SARB. His appointment was fairly well received by analysts right across the board, and the rand did strengthen marginally following the announcement.
I only knew recently that I am going to become the governor. I will plan for the next 5 years. There is a very elaborate planning process in the bank. I think that it has served the bank well. And in any case, we plan in 3 to 5 year cycles. Our task is not to protect the exchange rate of the currency. Our task is to protect the value. How much does the rent in your pocket buys? That is what we protect. In other words, we must keep inflation in check so that your rent is able to buy more goods. If we allow prices to rise too fast, the value in your rent, the value of the rent in your pocket deteriorates and you are poorer.
Now, prior to Monday's announcement, there were concerns that President Zuma may have appointed a governor from outside the ranks of the Reserve Bank, thereby compromising its independence and the policy trajectory there. As Angelo Coppola reports, however, those fears have turned out to be quite unfounded.
Lesetja Kganyago is no stranger to the Reserve Bank or National Treasury. He was Director General at National Treasury and worked as a low-level manager at the Reserve Bank in 1994. He's been at the South African Reserve Bank since 2011, looking after banking supervision, financial regulatory reform and regulation of cross-border flows. But he has a very clear picture of what the role of a central bank is, and the market liked what it heard.
It's a great appointment. His academic qualifications, he's been to Harvard, he's been to the LSE, got a degree here in South Africa, so all round good on the education front. He's got lots of experience in the public sector, so the only real criticism is maybe he doesn't have enough private sector experience. But as a complete package, I think he'll be great.
I think it's a very good appointment. I think firstly, he's internal. Secondly, he's had extensive experience with the government, both from a treasury perspective and now for a good couple of years with the Reserve Bank. So I think he comes with experience, he comes with institutional knowledge. So I think he's a very good appointment.
While the market liked the transparency of the announcement and the person that was selected, despite being a political appointment, he will be judged on his future actions.
What he's going to do in the future is what's most important, and I think in terms of the way he was answering, he doesn't want to reinvent the wheel. It's going to be very important how he deals with big decisions going forward, because let's be honest, the current rand situation and current inflation, he's going to play a very important part in the sector.
Market reaction to the appointment was immediate and positive.
Well, the rand strengthened quite sharply on the back of the news. It moved from 11.30 against the US dollar to 11.25, so it was quite a sharp move there. I'm also looking at bond yields. Bond yields moderated quite significantly as well. So the R186 bond yield fell from 8.35% this morning to 8.25. Or 8.28 or something like that, but a substantial move, something around 7 basis points. So it looks like the markets have cheered this move.
That continuity planning that we've heard about so much in the Reserve Bank seems to have paid off. We'll have to see going forward how the new Reserve Bank Governor designate performs. I'm Angelo Coppola for CCTV at the Union Buildings in Pretoria.
Now, the volume of Sino-Nigerian trade went up by 39.4% to about $11.76 billion by the end of the third quarter of 2014. Now, the bulk of that growth came from energy, agriculture, infrastructure, telecommunications and the rail sectors. China's ambassador to Nigeria, Gu Xiaojie, released the trade data at a reception to mark China's 65th National Day in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The ambassador also said the Chinese government has provided medical supplies worth $4.9 million to Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea, as well as 2 teams of medical experts to the worst affected countries by the Ebola outbreak. The British gas producer BG Group has received about $350 million from Egypt's government as part of payment for outstanding debts to oil and gas firms operating right across Egypt. Now, this transaction reduces BG's receivables balance in Egypt to about $1.2 billion. The firm will still continue to investigate options for increasing the supply of gas in the country. Egypt, however, is currently facing its worst energy crisis in decades as gas production declines and consumption rises. Energy companies have been reluctant to increase investment in the country after the government fell behind on its payments. Still in Egypt, the International Monetary Fund has confirmed its officials will attend an investment conference that will be held in Egypt in February next year. Now, authorities hope at that event to raise billions of dollars, which of course will be spent reviving Egypt's battered economy. The details on that, however, aren't 100% clear. Ahead of the conference, the international lender hopes to prepare a long-delayed assessment of Egypt's economic performance and its policies. The IMF's managing director, Christine Lagarde, said Cairo's recent economic reforms, including a reduction in some fuel subsidies, were, quote, a good start, end of quote, in efforts to tackle Egypt's crippling budget deficit. Egypt has not asked for an IMF bailout. It instead wants the lender to resume its periodic economic assessments of its economy. The IMF last conducted such a review for Egypt in 2010. Subsequent reviews, however, did not happen due to a combination of political and economic unrest. Let's head over to Cairo now. Yasser Kim has the latest details on all those stories for us from there. Yasser, do we have any date on when the IMF will send a team to Cairo to start these annual reviews, or to use a technical name, the Article 4 reviews?
There's no set day, but what we know is that it will be in October this month. Initially, we were told it will be before the end of the year, but then the latest news is that it will be this month, but not before the 10th to the 15th of October. We have a number of ministers from the economic team who are not in Egypt. A couple are in the World Bank fall meetings right now. They left today. And there's also the festivities, and more are outside the country. So we expect maybe by the 10th, not before the 10th of October, that the group or the team, the IMF team, will be in Egypt.
Indeed. Let's focus on this investment conference that's planned for next year. Egypt's government plans to raise quite a bit of money at that event, but where exactly will that money be spent?
We're told there will be 15 big projects. They are now under feasibility study by international financial institutions for the Egyptian government. We know of 3 of them, 3 huge ones. The first is what is called an international touristic shopping and entertainment city. That will be over around 1,000 fedans. And it will include a Disneyland park, a huge park, movies, theaters in partnership with huge Hollywood companies and with Disneyland. And also there will be a number of resorts, a number of hotels on the beach. It will be close to the Gulf of Suez. And that's one of the big ones. It will employ around 500,000 employees in its first phase alone. So that's a big project the government is trying to get ready for. The second is a commodities stock exchange. Egypt, as you know, is the largest importer of wheat in the world. And it wants to use this leverage to be a hub for commodities. And it's saying that they're preparing a huge place to stock, a stock area that has a capacity of about 50 million tons of commodities, and it will cost about $14 billion. And this project, actually, there is an agreement with the Chicago Commodities Exchange. The chief or the chairman of the Chicago one will be in Cairo. And the last is some in every city there will be a logistical free trade zone. We don't know much details about that, but it's a free trade zone, a logistical free trade zone in every city in Egypt. We'll see more when we get details about it, maybe just by the end of the year.
Indeed. Finally, Yasser, let's focus on the energy sector. Debts due, or rather some of the debts due to BG Group have been paid. It's now down to about $1.2 billion. Have other energy companies been paid as well? And do we know how much of the total debt outstanding is still present?
In Egypt, there are about 35 companies. The top 5, BP, British Gas, Shell, Eni of Italy, and Petronas, they have the largest debts, and they have all been paid. Their debts range in the average from 900 to 1.1 to 1.2 billion dollars. They've all been paid this time in an average of 300 to 350 million dollars, and the rest of the 35 were also paid, but they are owed small portions of money. What we're told also by the government is that the payments should all be ended, the due payments should be ended by 2017. So all the debts will be cleared by 2017 so that these companies could continue to produce in Egypt, and so Egypt can avoid importing more petrol or fuel. And the government actually had borrowed from the banks around $1.5 billion to pay for the loans. So the government have borrowed from banks, local banks, money. So they opened up a new debt to pay the debt for the the fuel companies and petrol companies this week. So we expect this to end by 2017 because it's a priority for the government at this point. Indeed, we'll have to leave it there. That's Yasser Hakim there live in Cairo. Let's take it to West Africa, specifically to Senegal. In what has been a traditionally male-dominated industry, 6 female entrepreneurs there are now changing the face of Senegal's ICT industry by setting up an all-girls ICT technical school. The idea is to raise the number of women with skills in this sector.
With the objective of promoting the use of information communication and technology in women, female entrepreneurs have set up Senegal's first tech hub, run by women for women. Djigouene, which means woman in the local Senegalese Wolof language, is a hive of activity as young girls and their trainers huddle around computers. Courses range from basic introduction to IT, like using programs such as Microsoft Word, to computer coding, including programs such as HTML and CSS.
In our training, we have a section where we teach coding, which allows us to know the girls and to find out which girls will be interested in information and technology. After that, we teach them about HTML and CSS, and we have noticed that many of them are interested in information and technology, and they get very excited when they find out that they can create their own websites and that they can have a lot to contribute to this field. We think that many of them will go on to pursue this and further their studies in this field.
At the moment, the Tech Hub offers lessons for free to encourage more women to get involved.
I learned coding, and now I'm more often on the internet instead of staying at home to watch television. I even want to create a website because I really am interested in IT. I used to just browse the internet and was just on the net, but now I know how to create a website.
The Tech Hub has created lots of opportunities for the women. Some have started their own businesses, while others have perused higher education thanks to the ICT course.
We often think that IT is something for boys and that there are no girls in that field. But when you come for training such as this, you realize that it's not that complicated. There should be more opportunities for people to learn. It's something that's doable, and it's something that makes us think about our future and what we want to do.
The idea is to bring women together to share their experiences, but also to equip them with knowledge. That's why we organize training courses which are different from other institutions. The training heavily focuses on what the participants want to learn or to teach them skills that will help them find employment and so on.
A According to the 2013 McKinsey Global Institute, internet-facilitated business contributed around 3.3% of Senegal's gross domestic product, one of the highest levels in Africa. Jiguena founders hope that Senegal's thriving ICT sector can continue to be a place of innovation where women can make a difference. Penina Karibe, CCTV.
Let's make a quick run through the markets here for you. Some interesting news coming out of Tanzania, specifically East Africa. It will be finishing up a $455 million power line linking the national grid in Tanzania to the national grid over in Kenya as well. So that should expand the effective market for KenGen, the main dominant generating power firm in Kenya, and of course KPLC as well. Should be interesting to see what effect this has on their shares moving forward. We'll be looking at the game industry in South Africa next. It's mostly white dominated. Why? And we'll also be profiling one of Cote d'Ivoire's indigenous chocolatiers when we come back. Africa is on the move. It's home to 7 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies. We help you make sense of the fast changing African business landscape. We take you where the business is happening.
The rebasing of Nigeria's GDP has been a long time in coming.
The information provides us much more scope to know what the structure of the economy is.
Welcome back. 15 minutes in, you're still watching Global Business Africa. Now let's take you over to South Africa, a country that boasts a fairly significantly wide variety of wild animals compared to other countries in the world. Game farming is big business down there. It contributed about $900 million to GDP last year alone. The thing is, black South Africans haven't gained much from game farming, commercial game farming, for a very long time. The question is why? CCTV Sumitra Naidu filed this report on What's Hot Tonight.
Game farming in South Africa has been around for centuries, but over the years it's become more proficient. Farmers are investing more time and money in the industry. However, transformation in the sector has been slow. A group of farmers in the Limpopo province are trying to change this by providing startup finance and training to new entrants.
An easy way for a black South African to enter this market is to go into an agreement with a white farmer, an established farmer that is already established in the industry, invest in livestock, invest in this type of game for a period of 3 or 5 or 10 years, and then after 10 years cash out and have the opportunity to use that cash to buy himself or herself a farm and then to proceed further in this industry.
The South African government has included transformation in the sector in its National Development Plan. It also forms part of its strategy to tackle the controversial issue of land distribution. There are 10,000 private game ranches in South Africa, which makes up for almost 17% of the country's land, most of which is owned by white farmers. Entering this market requires large capital investments.
It's an expensive industry to get into, but as soon as you're into it, the return on investment is huge. It's around about 52% return on investment year on year. But you have to be in it for the long run.
To breed game, farmers require land of between 300 and 500 hectares. A sound knowledge of conservation management and specialized skills is needed to rear animals.
The skills transfer is a very important aspect, but that skills are available, and I just think that government could perhaps come to the table and assist to build the bridges between new entrants into the market and existing people to work on skills transfer programs.
Hunting also plays a huge role in the game farming industry, bringing in 56% of revenues. Most of the animals hunted are used for trophies and biltong, but this is done under strict management programs.
We do hunt, but we breed much more. So in order for us to be able to put money back, I have to hunt a little, but that allows me to farm with many more animals that I never were able to. So you have to have that balance between the two.
Hunting and conservation and breeding these animals go hand in hand. The one industry cannot survive without the other. And at the end of the day, we believe that all the structures that are in place will make sure that hunting is done on an ethical, sustainable basis that protect the animals.
To breed game, farmers need between 300 and 500 hectares of land. A sound knowledge of management, conservation and specialized skills are required in order to rear animals. Currently, less than 10% of the country's land is owned by black South Africans. The National Planning Commission's strategy to accelerate land reform is to increase the number of black farmers in the game farming industry. But due to the large costs involved and the skills required, it may have to look at more partnerships with white farmers to speed up transformation. Sumitra Naidu, CCTV, Bella Bella, Limpopo.
Now let's stick with that wildlife theme. The Hermanus Whale Festival does take place in South Africa every single year. It's a fairly significant contributor to the area's local economy. Last year, the organisers estimate that whale watching in the small Western Cape town alone brought in $2.6 million. They're hoping to exceed that in 2014.
Once a year, Hermanus, a small seaside town in the southern coast of South Africa, plays host to over 100,000 visitors who come to marvel at the arrival of whales. The small town is known as the best land-based whale watching destination in the world. The 23rd annual Whale Festival is just wrapping up. As with the previous years, domestic and international travelers bring brisk trade to local tourism and other industries.
We expect well over 120,000 people to attend the festival this year. Last year, conservatively speaking, we brought in 30 million into our local economy, and we are hoping this year that we will far exceed the 30 million.
Every year, businesses from South Africa and abroad sponsor the Whale Festival. One of the new sponsors is a Chinese-owned Hisense. Hisense sponsored the establishment of an eco-marine village.
And we've decided to sponsor the Hisense Eco-Marine Village to create eco-friendly awareness and to protect the marine life at the Hermanus Festival.
The Whale Festival lasts only a few days. The whales arrive in the middle of September, bringing lucrative business opportunities for local retailers. Sheikh, a vendor originally from Senegal, says during the whale watching period, he earns double from his small shop.
The big season on the Whale Festival, we sell 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 a day. Yeah, more or less. But if it's a normal day, 1,500, 600, 700 a day.
Noel Makugu, CCTV.
Now, once upon a time, anyone in the oil business would have told you it would be a cold day in hell before oil freezes over and gets below $100 a barrel. That, however, has happened with regard to crude oil numbers. They're actually just above $90 or so on US crude. Gold also having a torrid time, down below $1,200 an ounce. However, one more interesting story to keep a close eye on, the row between Zambia and Glencore over VAT refunds. The company says Zambia's government is holding $12 million in VAT refunds. The government says, yes, it is entirely unpractical to actually implement those rules, but the refunds haven't happened yet. And there's quite a row brewing in Africa's biggest copper producer. We'll be looking at the business of chocolate in Cote d'Ivoire next. The country produces over 40% of the world's cocoa. All that and more is coming up shortly. Welcome back. Côte d'Ivoire, lovely West African country, also happens to be the place that produces about 40% of the world's cocoa. But most of that is exported as raw beans, not the finished product. Now, over the years, little investment has gone into local value addition, but that is slowly changing as young Ivorian entrepreneurs struggle to make gains in an industry that's not only foreign, but dominated by multinationals with centuries of experience and billions in capital. The struggle of one such entrepreneur makes up our story in Grassroots tonight.
Axel Emmanuel is a young Ivorian chocolate pastry entrepreneur, one of the very few Africans and indeed Ivorians who are struggling to make it in an industry that has long been dominated by foreigners.
Je suis Axel Emmanuel, artisan chocolatier ivoirien.
I am Axel Emmanuel, Ivorian chocolate entrepreneur. I've decided to express myself in the cocoa sector, so I make cakes and also chocolates. Working with the chocolate made from the cocoa of Côte d'Ivoire is a challenge that I really wanted to come up with, and so that's what led me into this activity.
Admittedly, entrepreneurship has not been easy. He had to compete with multinationals in the chocolate sector in order to make himself a name.
It is not easy because you have to really believe in what you're doing to be able to actually achieve your goal. Chocolate is not an easy product to work with.
But his hard work and effort has indeed paid off, realizing one of his dreams. During the African Cup of Pastry in the year 2013, he was crowned as one of the best on the African continent.
This is really a luxury product which is not within the reach of everyone, and Ivory Coast produces cocoa but cannot manufacture it. I take an example. During the African Championship of Chocolate Pastry that Côte d'Ivoire organized, the chocolate that was used for the candidates came from France. It's very ironic. Yet, we can manufacture our own cocoa here in Côte d'Ivoire.
As his commercial venture picks up, he is now targeting corporates, making chocolates to order complete with logos and imprints.
My first target is enterprises because I make personalized chocolates. I make chocolates with enterprises logos to offer to their VIP customers.
Cocoa has been the mainstay of the Ivorian economy for decades. Strategizing on more ways to retain more of the revenue generated locally by the industry through value addition will mean that the country produces more entrepreneurs just like Emmanuel. Peter Akaba, CCTV.
As far as currencies go, stability is the name of the game as far as we're concerned here. We've been looking at these numbers all day, and generally the trends that we're seeing here with specifically the South African rand and the Kenyan shilling is one of more of the same. Quite a bit of political risk being yanked out of the Kenyan shilling. That's back to a pure fundamentals play in terms of supply and demand. With regard to the South African rand, policy is essentially heading in the exact same direction, at least from the market's perspective, under Mr. Lesitsha Kganyago as it was under Jill Marcus. So that's pretty much exactly the idea here. Now, quick run through what we're working on for tomorrow's program. We'll be looking at Kenya's horticulture industry. It's struggling to absorb the shock of these new taxes from the EU, given the fact that it and the East African community haven't agreed on an EPA deal. And at the same time, how will markets react to the current political situation in Kenya? The President made some interesting legal moves today, but the markets will have time to digest it and see where we go next moving forward. But that's it for this edition of Global Business. The usual drill applies. Feedback to Global Business Africa at cctv.com. If you missed anything on this program, catch up on Facebook and Twitter. The news continues over there 24/7. Thank you for watching. I'm Raman Yan.